Hey everybody, welcome to Process Server and Messenger. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, or whatever it is you do, wherever and however you watch the show. Also, I got up here, let's see if this little fade works. Boom. www.surfct.net and my Patreon, www.patreon.com/processserver and messenger. The first website, surfct.net, is my website if you need something served, especially to registered agents like LegalZoom and CT Corp. And then at the bottom there, you got the Patreon link, which is where I put extra bonus content and footage and cool, fun stuff for you to enjoy. And go ahead and check it out. It's a good time. All right, everybody. Thanks. Hey everybody, welcome to Process Server and Messenger. I'm Nick, your host of the show and producer and everything else. This is a show where we like to talk about being a process server, being a messenger, being a small business owner, what it's like to be out there serving documents and just kind of sending status and what's the life's like. It's a interesting perspective. There's a lot that goes on. And there's a lot of fun and interesting stories, a lot of cool places I get to go to, a lot of weird people I get to serve, getting served by a weird person themselves. This morning I made an attempt to serve somebody at a residence address, and I went on my bike. I took my bike this time because I've been watching some cycling, a lot of cycling for me, but there's a lot of cycling out there that I'm missing. I just watched the UAE Tour, and I'm going to get into that a little later. This is Sports Edition Part 2. But there's also a ton of cycling that I missed. There's races everywhere. I'm going to probably try to follow up on that and watch those. That's the great thing about cycling is there's a bajillion events going on. It's not just like the NBA where you got one league. It seems like there's infinity races going on from the professional level to just kids in the street racing each other down the block. So I'll get into that later. This is Sports Edition 2. The UAE Tour just finished yesterday. But I always like to start talking a little bit of process server stuff. This is Process Server and Messenger. So this morning I went to serve this guy at a house and I took my bike there. It was his residence and it's someone who I've not successfully served in the last week. I have to personally serve this individual. And it's just another house, another residence I'm dealing with where no one seems to be home ever. And that's not their problem, I guess. I'm from the process server's perspective. I wish when someone gave me an individual to serve at a residence, I wish that person was never left their house. That way I can just go knock it out on the first attempt, knock on the door, you answer. There you go. From business perspective, for me, that's what I would prefer. Obviously, that's not reality, and I think anybody who's been serving papers can relate to the experience of trying to serve an individual at a residence that's just there's no one there. If there's no one ever there, you have no idea when anyone's ever going to be back. There's no indication of that sort of thing, and unfortunately, it just never works out. You kind of just keep making your attempts, and at some point you're waiting for the client to pull the plug and try to do something else. But I'm not gonna put too much on the clients that send me this work because a lot of times they're process servers themselves, or they have a process server or messenger company, and they're just trying to get the diligence done, and we're all just doing our best. And even up to the level of the attorney that's trying to serve the paperwork, they're also trying to do their best. They're not purposefully sending you to empty houses. We're just trying to be diligent and get the job done, and that's the part of the job that's the work of it is putting in the diligence and making the effort to get someone served. And it's not always I'm going to knock on your door and you're going to be there. It's a lot of times individuals at residences. For me, that's the hardest one to do, especially if you got to serve them personally. There's a lot of paperwork from out of state that is a little more lenient they're more lenient in some regards, but very strict in other regards. Strict in the sense of how they want their attempts done at certain times of day, and sometimes it's no Sunday service, which is not a thing out here in California. So that's always kind of a little bit of a, oh man, like it's just a one less day to work, but that's fine. That's their state rules, and you got to respect that. That they're not doing this so that your life can be easier. They're doing it for a reason, and but in some ways it can be more lenient. In some ways it can be less lenient. Sometimes out of state they're very much more strict about what times you make your attempts, whereas in California, they're still kind of strict. They want attempts at different times of day, in the morning, in the noon or afternoon, and then in the evening. But I've found that when you're making diligences for California documents, they're a little more lenient. Like there's with the morning attempt. If you make an attempt at 9, and this isn't advice, I don't recommend doing this. I like to make all my morning attempts before 9 a.m. But if you're there at 9:30, I don't think I've ever seen sometimes, but they'll count that for a morning attempt in California. But if it's for somewhere like maybe New York, I want to say that's not going to work. They strictly need it before 9 a.m. And that's just based on my experience. It varies from state to state, and it's always important to look at the instructions you're given and to ask questions about what you can do. There's some states where I have a case I'm going to serve later where I've made my attempts and I'm going to post. Whereas in other states, you need an order to post. I got documents in Utah where I'm waiting for the attorney to get permission from the judge to post. And there's documents like that in California as well where you need permission from the judge to post it. But I don't know what state it's out of. I'll look it up at some point and maybe get back to it, but it's not California. I don't think it's New York, but I don't think it's Florida either. I can't remember what state it is, but you can post if you can confirm the residency, or if you see like a piece of mail there with the guy's or the defendant's name on it. I shouldn't say guy, the person's name on it. If you can reasonably confirm that this is the right address, you can post. And that's cool. I always like rules that are more lenient to the process server. I'm a process server. So and I'm not just saying that because I want my job to be easier. I have a little bit, partially saying. So sometimes regarding the rules of serving people, they're more diligent, more strict in certain places than they are in others. And as a process server, I always prefer the lenient rules because, or when they allow you to substitute serve to anybody on the first attempt who's of an adult age, or when they allow you to post if you can confirm residency. I think that's great. And it's not just because I'm a process server and I'm trying to get this work done and move on and get it, anything like that. It's not so much, a little bit for selfish reasons. I want my work to be easier. But sometimes I don't know what's going on in the courtroom. I don't know what's going on with the judge. I don't know what's going on with the attorneys, but I would like to just be able to serve. Isn't the whole point just to serve the document and give to either establish jurisdiction to the defendant, or to serve the subpoena, or to give someone a notice? Like, I don't see why sometimes I have to make multiple attempts when I can serve it to somebody who's there. Like, I'm serving documents to an individual who's not in town, and someone answers the door and they say, "Oh, she'll be back. I'll give it to her, or I'll give it to him." And I got to go, well, I have to make a couple more attempts per state code. I can't just give these to you. I'm going to have to come back and serve them. Now, in most cases, when that happens, personally, I will give them a set of the documents and I will go back and make the attempts. But it's always, from my perspective, it's so the client can, maybe this person isn't served properly, but maybe they respond to the service. Maybe they answer to the court. Maybe they respond to the subpoena request. So maybe they didn't get served properly. Maybe you didn't fill out a proof of service, but they're still moving forward with the case and your client's still happy. Even though you didn't serve them, they got what they needed to. the subpoena, they produced records, or the individual being served, you don't have proof of service, but they answered, so you can move on with the case. So I will substitute serve people. Well, it's not substitute service. It's just I will give them the document, and will continue to make the attempts until I can successfully substitute serve. But like, if I gotta make 3 attempts sometimes, and I can substitute serve it on the first attempt, but then I have to go back and make 2 and 3, and then on the 3rd attempt, no one's there, and then the 4th attempt, no one's there, and now the 5th attempt, I can finally get someone to answer the door and substitute service. Sometimes, selfishly, I just feel like, what was the point? The first time I went, they said they would give the documents to that person, and that this is your roommate, or this is my mom or dad, or this is my son or daughter. We'll take care of it. And you want to be able to just sign the proof and say you subserved right there, but it's only your first attempt, so you got to make more attempts. It's kind of I wish the judges and the attorneys and the people who write the rules would kind of see it more from that perspective of, what are we doing here? You want to give them reasonable notice? Fine, we're doing that. But you want to make a process server just kind of knock on a door 5 or 6 times, But that's just my personal experience. I'm just speaking off of the fact that I have a couple individuals I'm trying to serve at residences that give me a little bit of heartache right now. But I was able to go on my bike and try to attempt serve someone, and I filmed it. I had my camera on my bike, so I'm gonna see what I can do with that content. See if I can make that video work for something. Although I'm thinking about it, and I'm worried I didn't record. You ever do that? You set up a camera and you start going, and it's not recording. You're like, oh man, what a doofus. So I got to check on that. Anyways, always follow the rules of the civil procedure. Always follow the rules of whatever state you're serving it in. That's a must. I'm not saying I want to change the rules or affect anything or complain. I'm just complaining. I got some houses, individuals at residences I'm serving right now, and it's just not going well. I don't think it's my fault. I'm making the attempts. I'm getting there. I don't say these people don't live there, or they're on vacation, or, you're allowed to do what you want. You can go on vacation, but I've been having some heartache over a couple jobs that I have open still. Anyways, we're moving on to sports. The UAE Tour just wrapped up yesterday. The 23rd, it was Sunday, February 23rd. Tadej Pogačar won the general time. I think they call that GC, I hope. I'm still learning, so I'm still messing this up, but the general category, I think that's what it stands for. I'll look it up, and you guys can, if you're fans of cycling, you can leave a comment of where I'm making mistakes. But he won the big thing you're going for, which is to win the race, to win the best overall time. And he was awesome. He was great. He was awesome. He won stage 3, and he won the last stage, and he was wearing a red jersey. It kind of reminded me of Tiger Woods all those days long ago when he was just kicking butt on the golf course, whatever, where you play golf. I don't play golf, but the golf field, that doesn't sound right. But so he was wearing the red jersey. He was out in front. He won the race, and he won the final stage of the race, which is a cool kind of emphatic way to win. It looks better on TV if you win the race and you win the last day of the race. It always is kind of weird. I can remember maybe a couple races I watched years ago where you win the race, but you didn't come in first place at the end. And as a young person who didn't understand cycling, you're kind of like, this doesn't feel right. I want the guy to win, to be first on the last stage. That looks cool. He comes in first and everyone celebrates. But I guess that's just doesn't matter. But it looked cool, and Tadej Pogačar was able to do that yesterday, and he's got that quality of just being really good and being really cool and doing cool things because he's really good. So he came in first in that stage. He won that stage. It was a crazy long bike ride at the final stage, and at the very last 10 kilometers, they were climbing up a mountain. So that was the point with about 7.8 kilometers left that he just took off and left everybody behind. There was a sizable gap, and even if the gap wasn't that big, it was metaphorically big. Everyone knew what it meant for him to just kick butt up that hill and leave everyone behind and win that final stage on the final day and win the race and just look good doing it. Made it look easy. Didn't even look like he was out of breath. Didn't look like he was struggling. Spent spent a lot of time just in the saddle, not even up where he's standing up and trying to pedal. A lot of guys would do that because they're getting tired and they're generating more power by standing up. And it's kind of like it works and it helps out, but it's also kind of a sign of, I don't know, desperation or what, but it's, if you can be sitting in the saddle, sit it down seated and just kind of have a calm look on your face as you're climbing a mountain and everyone else is getting left behind, which is what Tadej Pogačar did yesterday. It looks awesome. It looks like you're really, really good and you're beating everybody. It looks definitive. So that was good. There was, oh man, I'm trying to remember. I didn't take notes, but I think Jonathan Milan won the points category. So good for him. There was a nice little race at the last day between him and Samudio, who's one of my new favorite racers, just because that guy looks cool when he's attacking in the front and trying to win these intermediate sprints throughout the race. And those are the guys that really keep the most of the race interesting until the end. But so he won the general points. Jonathan Milan, Jorick, I think that's his name. I'll look it up again. If I'm messing it up, I'll correct it later, maybe, or I'll just remember it. I'll do a better job in the future. I think his name is Jorick. He won the black jersey, so he won the sprinting. Good for him. Don't remember the name of the kid that won the young, the jersey for the young people. But congrats. Overall thoughts. It was. I'm proud of myself. I watched the whole race. I watched everything, and I watched a lot of it with my wife. I think she was enjoying it too. She was on the Peloton, the exercise machine, and I would put it on, and then we can watch Tadej Pogačar just kick everyone's butt, and even she could see how clearly he was doing a lot better than everyone else. So it's nice when someone who's really good and who's really hyped up and you're really excited for comes through and performs, and that's what he did. So that was good. That was nice. I enjoyed it. Let's see, other thoughts on the race. A lot of crashes. There was a couple crashes in the last couple days. I think that might have been a part of the course design, maybe just bad luck. I don't know. I'll keep an eye out in the future when I'm watching. It just seemed to be a lot of crashes, a lot of people running at the end of the race, running into media at the certain parts throughout the race, hitting curbs or hitting other bikers. There was just seemed to be a lot of crashes. And I mean, obviously crashing is part of cycling, but I don't know. Maybe was it more or less? Keep my eye out for that. I just thoughts on the last. There wasn't too many crashes I can remember until the last maybe stage 5 and stage 6 and 7. Let's see, other thoughts. No, I didn't write anything down. Just had a good time watching it. Looking forward to the next race. I think Paris-Roubaix is next. I'm going to have to look up how to say that. But they're all talking about it. Everyone was excited for that. So I got to get on the UCI website. I got to get on all the cycling blogs and figure out which race I'm going to watch next. Probably going to catch up on some races that occurred last week that weren't the UAE Tour. Jonas Vingegaard won a race, so I'm going to probably check that one out. And just going to continue my cycling fan journey. I feel like this is a good time. You got a couple guys up at the top who are just famously good right now, and so there's a lot of superstars you could watch and get into their success and how great they are. It's always easy to watch sports when there's someone who's great. It helps you understand and get into it better. And for me, I'm just new to it, so I'm liking it. You know what I like about cycling is compared to, it seems like it's not so much of an American sport. And I like that because at the moment, American sports are just dominated by gambling and gambling sites, and there's ads for gambling everywhere. And this is no judgment on that. I'm not going to comment on gambling. I'm just going to say that watching cycling and not being just bludgeoned with ads and in-game parlays and all that, it's refreshing. I don't gamble, so and I'm not for or against it. This is not a political thing. I'm just saying I don't do it. So in American sports, you're constantly seeing ads for gambling, and I don't gamble, so I kind of just like, okay, another technical difficulty, but that's okay. We're gonna fix it in editing. Just gonna keep going. I was saying Carlton Kirby and Matt Stevens were the commentators on the race, and shout out to them. They kept it interesting. They did a great job. I felt like they were explaining everything to me, putting everything into context. And it's not easy to do that much live commentating on a 4-hour race 7 days in a row. I know for sure I would have been saying something maybe inappropriate, and they managed to get through it and not say anything inappropriate and be very clever and funny and entertaining. And I as someone who's trying to record a podcast for a half hour, for them to go 4 hours a day for 7 days, I was impressed, and they kept it very entertaining. So shout out to them. I followed them both on Twitter, so whatever races they're doing, I'm sure I'll be watching those. All right, everybody. I think that's about it for today. I'm going to try to clean this up in editing. I had a few video technicalities happen. I'm trying to learn how to produce this as I go, and I was on Adobe Premiere yesterday, and I found something real good. I was trying to fix the color because I saw one of my clips online, and I looked kind of gray. I don't have too much color anyway, and it's kind of, palish white guy, so the color doesn't look great on me on film anyway. If I step outside, I'm usually wearing long sleeves to protect myself from the sun. Sunscreen, So anyways, I don't know how good I look on camera anyway, but I was trying to fix the color with Adobe Premiere, and I found a little tool to help me. So I'm going to get this image quality sharper, and then I'm going to start messing with the color to see if I can get it a little bit to pop more, because everywhere I go, it says that high definition, the better, the higher quality video you can make, the better. So every day I'm just trying to get a little bit better, improve a little bit more and a little bit more. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's not a one-day classic. It's a several days long tour. It's a cycling metaphor. Okay, well, thanks for sticking around and I'll have more thoughts on service of process. I'm going to be working on a frequently asked questions. I'm going to be working on a course. I'm going to be working on rules that you should know. I'm going to be working on advice. I'm going to start working on some, I don't want to call it educational. I just want to call it useful, because, I'm no one to be an expert on this. I'm just someone with a lot of experience, and I want to share that in a way that can be useful and can help people. But so that's something to look forward to. And thanks for sticking around with me. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I'll check in with you all later. Bye.